বিজয়ফুল আমাদের মুক্তিযুদ্ধ বিজয়ের প্রতীক। ডিসেম্বরের 1 থেকে 16 তারিখ প্রতিদিন বিজয় ফুল পড়ুন, বিজয়কে বুকে ধারণ করুন।
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Wishing every Bangladeshi around the world happy 50 years of victory. This is Farah, and I welcome you to Bijoyphool live program, A Tale of Martyr, Sibling. Before I take the pleasure of introducing you all to our today's guest, please allow me to pay humble respect and gratitude to all our freedom fighters who fought in the liberation war of Bangladesh, and to all the stakeholders who contributed in creating Bangladesh. The notion of Bijoyphool was originally conceived in London following the idea of poppy flower in Britain by poet Jami. Bijoyphool, it is a symbolic flower, which means victory flower. It symbolizes the liberation war of Bangladesh, ultimate victory, and the independence which we have now. It also represents remembrance. Through this symbolic flower, we remember our heroic freedom fighter and their supreme sacrifices. We also use this flower to talk about Bangladesh, its history, culture, and heritage. We use this campaign, the Bijoyphool campaign, for public advocacy and to raise awareness about the liberation war of Bangladesh through educational workshop, children's learning, and above all, to project the success stories of Bangladesh to the rest of the world. In Bijoyphool, we aim to pass on the history of our liberation war to our next generation when they're struggling to feel connected to their roots. It is with deep pride I introduce you to our wonderful guest, Saif Imam Jami, son of Shaheed Jononi Jahanara Imam and a brother of Martyr Shafi Imam Rumi. Dear Jami Bhai, welcome to the show. Thank you for your time. We are truly pleased to have you among us. You are known to many in different relation and title, but I feel you take pride in referring as a son of Shaheed Jononi Jahanara Imam and a brother of Martyr Shafi Imam Rumi.
Hello, Farah. Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to this program. And yes, I don't need any titles. I'm very, very happy to be known as Shaheed Jononi's son and Rumi's brother. And I'm delighted to be on this show today.
What I was saying, that many of us have read the heart-touching memoir of Ekatture Dinguli by your mother, Jahanara Imam, where Rumi, your brother, was the premier character. He was one of the young members of the famous crack platoon. To us, Shaheed Rumi is the hero of the urban war for a country's liberation, a teenager, conscious about the purpose of his existence with resolution to fulfill the purpose, ready to materialize what, we all believe and he believes in, almost too good to be true for a 19-year-old. He became an epitome of our youth, and that's how, the whole nation sees him. But I know apart from being a hero, he had many different roles for different people. Like he was a son and he was an inspiration, but too, he was your brother. So I would like to know from you that how was he as a brother, as a family member, and then as a person as a whole? Thank you.
Definitely, he has become an icon representing the guerrillas, but let's be clear that his sacrifice is no more than every other guerrilla fighter that gave their life for the liberation war. It just happens that this book, when it came out, at a time that there were some, I would say, a lack of understanding of and the spirit of the liberation was somewhat fading. And this book, although it represents how our family dealt with the nine months of liberation war, it's a story that were happening in every house and every family during those 9 months. And I think it resonated with those families, and it was almost like saying, yeah, this book is not just about the Imam family, but it is also our story. And I think that is the primary reason that this became so popular and has been received with such great honor. Bhaiya was a very many-faceted personality, I would say, not in a negative sense. As a brother, he was very protective. We are 3.5 years apart in age. And throughout my kindergarten, school, and then through middle school and high school, he has always been there. Very friendly, had an infectious smile, but was very easy to get along. People found him interesting because of his views. A voracious reader, read just about anything that he could get his hands on. Didn't matter the subject matter.
He loved reading.
Yes, and he just was interested to know, about various things. He was interested in politics, not just within then Pakistan, but also abroad. He was very interested in the U.S. Political scene. He read about individuals' personalities that made contributions to society. He was a big admirer of Che Guevara, the guerrilla leader in Cuba. So his whole idea was basically saying, what is out there? I want to know. I want to understand. And I think those kind of, having those different perspectives really made him a very interesting person to be with. Very friendly and very, very loyal to his friends and obviously to the family.
I read somewhere that, he also wanted to go to Palestine to fight for the Palestinian liberty. Was it did I read it right?
Well, those are the aspirations. When you have that compassion of people that are being, getting injustice in their lives, which, it's not that it was anything to do with religion. It was the people. And, when we started getting, we meaning the people of East Pakistan at that time, were being persecuted and being basically trodden down by the West Pakistani administration. That basically is a parallel to what was going on in the Middle East, except this was happening within a single country. So that kind of segues into his involvement in our liberation war.
Would you like to tell us what inspired him to join the war of liberation, being a young man who had vast opportunity ahead of him? As far as I read, and I know many of the audience would also know, that he was about to start his undergrad in the United States, and he was already a student of WIT, and he even stood third in the matriculation, in his intermediate. So with such I mean, what would I say? The rich gray matter and such an enigmatic personality he had. Like he could have, like, leave the country and finished his education and come back, but he didn't do that. What was the inspiration?
Well, the inspiration really is more, to me, a love of the country and the love of this culture and the love of the language of then East Pakistan, now Bangladesh.
Mm-hmm.
We were Bengalis, and this inspiration didn't come from the crackdown that happened on March 25th in 1971. This inspiration really, or the feelings, came from his involvement in the culture and the language. As you know, right after the participation of India,
yes,
Jinnah came out and declared Urdu will be the national language of a country that was so different, except for the only common thread between East and West Pakistan was religion.
Yeah, nothing else but
and culturally we were different, language we were different, we looked different physically from the West Pakistanis.
Mm-hmm.
And the language movement really was the light that or the match that lit the fuse and following that, people died for the language, and the oppression continued, from then on, until, we finally got, under the leadership of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, we got to the point of finally getting the election that we needed. And we won. East Pakistan, we won the majority, and we were supposed to come to power, at least in not power in the sense that, taking over it, as we will have the autonomy. And of course, that was not acceptable to the West Pakistanis. And hence came March 25th. So, it's not the inspiration, it's at that time survival. Once we saw what happened on March 25th, when we came out after the curfew was lifted on the 27th, and saw the ravaging of the country and its people, I don't think anybody needed an inspiration. This was just pure anger and the understanding that, we were not considered to be human beings the way we were slaughtered when people were set on fire in the Bostis and all that, while they are sleeping. What kind of cowards are these people?
Yes.
So it just did not require an inspiration. It required a reaction. It required a resistance. And nobody had to go out and call people to come to war. They just joined. It was just spontaneous. So, I don't think that this kind of response to a genocide has happened in any other country. How quickly we formed and how we quickly started the resistance.
Yes. And there is still denial about this genocide in Pakistan. Other day, I was just going through some of the documentaries in BBC Urdu, and still I found, many of them were not recognizing, and they were saying that why did we go away from them? And that's why they keep saying the fall of Dhaka. Whereas for us, it's victory for Bangladesh. So I can quite understand why, they never felt the need to recognize the genocide, because they never really understood that what was behind this movement. And it could be what I saw that, that some of them are saying, that that we were part of them and we should be with them, but never realized that why couldn't we be part of them. So what you have mentioned earlier and have discussed about all those discrimination, the political, the social, the economic, so makes sense. And I hope, like, through our discussion, through our discourse, we could reach to the greater audience and let them know that what has happened to us, even if it did happen 50 years back, but that has truly happened. I would like to ask you that you mentioned that Shaheed Rumi, what made him go to the war, but when I was reading your mom's memoir, there was a part where she mentioned that she wasn't very happy to go for him to the war at the beginning, and during the earlier part of war, Shaheed Rumi constantly attempted to convince your mother to give him the permission to go to attend the war, and Shaheed Jononi wasn't convinced at the initial stage. But later she did. What changed her mind, actually?
Well, this is how we grew up. We were, when we wanted to have something or buy something, my parents never said no when we asked them. It was more having a discussion of why we would like to have what we wanted. And then they would have their reason, if they felt that, yeah, we should, it's okay for us to have that we would, then they would get it for us. And if they didn't, it was just not saying a no, but that there had to be some reasons why they were saying no. And we also had the option to counter that, their logic, with ours. And this is how we grew up. So, a mother is always apprehensive and fearful of letting their child, go to war or anywhere where there's danger. And this debate went on for a couple of months, back and forth. And, in the meantime, all his admission paperwork had reached our home from Illinois Institute of Technology, that he was scheduled to arrive in August to start his, get into his dormitory and so forth, and get, do all the orientation work and paperwork, so that. And as you read in the book, my brother essentially said that, look, you can forbid me to go, and I will listen to you, and I will probably go to the US, and maybe I will become a great whatever it is that I become. But as a human being, I would never be able to come to terms with my conscience of not doing something for my country. And I think that was what really got to my mother. And the way we were brought up, at that point, that there was just no option for my parents to say no.
And there was this letter Shaheed Rumi wrote to your mama, Choto Mama, Syed Mustafa Kamal Pasha, and he was in London that time. Was it?
Yes, and he still is in London.
Okay.
We are constantly in contact with each other. I did send him the link to this. Hopefully, he's listening in.
Yeah.
They were very, very close. Growing up, my brother idolized him. He had this a Vespa scooter that he would get around my uncle, and he would come by to the house and pick him up. And they were not just nephew and uncle, but they were friends.
Sentimental friend.
No, I mean, whatever my brother was involved in, he would write to Pasha Mama.
Yes.
And let him know what was going on. Pasha Mama got, my brother's interest not only in literature and all of the other things. He was also very interested in karate and judo. And he asked my uncle to buy some books for him because he wanted to study more on the classical karate, which was much different than what is taught in various the karate schools and whatnot. So they were very, very close, and I we both miss him very much. So he was again doing the same thing. He was communicating back to him, how things were, and that letter was very inspiring and it showed the mental fortitude and the courage that these guerrillas had, even under the dire circumstances they had to live, away from the country and come in at the middle, into the cities to carry out their operations.
Yes, I have that part of that letter, so I would like to read it. So sure. If you could emphasize a few things from there. So this is what he wrote. Dearest Pasha Mama, we are fighting a just war. We shall win. Every tale of atrocity you hear, every picture of the terrible destruction you see is true. They have torn into us a savagery unparalleled in human history. So shall we too tear them with like ferocity. I don't know when shall I write again. Do your best for Sonar Bangla, Rumi. And there was this part also which mentioned, he's saying that, and sure as Newton was right, so shall we too tear into them with like ferocity. Already our war has advanced. When the monsoon comes, we shall intensify our operation. Yep,
and the monsoon season was the greatest advantage we had.
Definitely.
Because, the West Pakistanis were not used to be on water. And, our country of rivers gave us a great advantage in dealing with them. So, yeah, I mean, he just was different and special.
I would like to tell you about, that the operations, Shaheed Rumi took. There were few, I know, the notable one. He was supposed to, do the hit and run on the Shithirganj power station. And then he also did a hit and run in one of the prominent house in Dhanmandi, if I'm right. And just after that, he was abducted. So if you'd like to shed some light on some of his operations.
Well, Shithirganj I was not familiar with, but definitely that was the last operation that they carried out was the one in Dhanmandi residential area. The Pakistan Army, basically took over certain houses to keep their personnel, and those homes they always had.
Were they residing in those houses?
Yes, okay. They were, and they always had guards, army guards outside the house. So part of this operation involved in finding these homes and then essentially attacking the guards that were posted outside the homes. So typically they would hijack cars, before they would go for operations. They would not obviously use their own vehicles.
Definitely.
So they hijacked a car and then they went out. There were 6 of them in the vehicle. Alam Bhai was driving, Shapun Bhai was there, Bodhi Bhai was there, and I think Kazi Bhai was there. Bhaiya was on the back seat, and Shapun Bhai was there. Not Bodhi Bhai, Shapun Bhai was there. And they went through that, the first incident where they essentially there were about 7 or 8 of the guards, and they went up to them and fired on them. And then on the way away from there, as they were getting out of the area, they came upon a checkpoint that had already been set up. So, as Alam Bhai came up to that, instead of as he slowed down, then he suddenly took off, accelerated the vehicle out of there. And it took them by surprise. The checkpoint wasn't, that heavily guarded. And as they were getting away,
but they were all Pakistani army.
Yeah, yes, Pakistan.
Not any local
no
collaborator.
No.
Okay.
And Bhaiya looked back and saw that this jeep had started to follow them, and it had a mounted machine gun on the back. And as soon as he saw that, he apparently used his submachine gun, the butt of the gun, and shattered the back window, the rear window of the car that they were in, and started firing at the jeep that was following them, and apparently hit the driver because it went out of control and hit a lamppost and obviously stopped, which allowed them to get away. Then this is of course after the fact, all of these things I'm saying, but at that night, which was August 25th, and the date is symbolic. This group would go around every 25th of every month. They would try to go on a hit and run operation.
Why on 25th?
Because of March 25th. We wanted to hit back, every 25th of the month.
Yes, that explains.
We wanted to hit back.
Yeah.
So then, Bhaiya, Shapon Bhai, and came into the house, and their faces were flushed. I mean, they were the eyes were just, looked like they had fire in them. They were so excited from the operation, and obviously the adrenaline, when they got chased by the jeep.
Mm-hmm.
And told my mother that the car that they had hijacked, all the arms were in the trunk of that car, and that if mother would come out and drive over and transfer the arms. The reason my mother was involved is in driving more than once in these kind of things is because typically the army would not be concerned about a female driver, a woman driver. Mm-hmm. And it was, dark by then. It was cloudy, drizzling. So she drove out, and got the arms back to the house. And on the roof of our house, we had the water tank, which was pretty large.
Was it on 25th of August or earlier?
Yeah, 25th of August. This is all happening the same evening. And then we put all the arms in a gunny sack, and then covered it, put that bag into a plastic bag, and then tied it up. We drained some of the water from the water tank. Mm-hmm. And to the farthest corner, we put a little stool, and then put the sack of the arms on top of it, and then filled it back up to the brim, so that if the house got searched and they looked into the tank, they would see a full tank, and if they wanted to get in, they would have to get into the tank to find out if anything was in there. Mm-hmm. Well, fortunately, nothing happened. that night.
Whose idea was that, to put the arms in the tank?
I don't know. I mean, you know, I was since I was the littlest one,
Definitely.
in stature and in age. I had the honor of getting into the water tank to put the arms inside it. Then, you know, they were, and after that, the next day, my father came home and said that the Pakistan intelligence was going crazy because that operation did a lot of damage. You know, of course, the count was high in terms of how many they got between the guards at the house and when the jeep was hit by my brother. And then father said that you guys need to get out of town. You know, they are using the informers and trying to track you guys down. So they left.
That was on 26th of August.
Right. And then they left town and was gone. Then I'm just segueing to your other question about his capture. He did not. He came back on the 29th morning, 29th August. That morning, his friend from Chittagong came to see him. They had not seen each other for a while, you know, since March.
And was that friend also a freedom fighter? Fighting the war?
Not if he was, I was not aware of it. Because he was, I only, you know, you don't tell people, you know, I'm a freedom fighter.
Definitely, yeah.
He came as a friend. He was not part of the crack platoon.
Okay.
So, and his name is Hafiz. So Hafiz Bhai came and so he said, you know, we said that Bhai is not home. He said, can I wait? And he said, fine. We said, fine. So he was here, and then Bhaiya showed up around noon, which he wasn't scheduled to, but I don't know why he came in. And we saw Hafiz Bhai. He said that, well, we haven't seen each other. I'll just stay the night and leave tomorrow morning. And that during that day, on the 28th, I think it was the 20th or the 29th, I'm not sure right now, but Bodhi Bhai, who was part of the group, was turned over to the army by one of his best friends, if you can believe it or not. That's part of all of this, the bad guys and the good guys. This man happened to be the son of then Dhaka College principal, Jalaluddin. And they were very close, Bodhi Bhai.
The one who leaked the information or passed the information to the army.
Right. Actually, Bodhi Bhai was at their house. And this guy, his friend, left the house and came back with the army. So Bodhi Bhai essentially finally broke to the torture that he faced. And then around midnight on the 29th, we were awakened by you know, banging on the door, and the army came in and asked, who is Rumi? So when they were knocking and banging on the doors, you know, we woke up and looked around, and the entire house was surrounded by army.
So there was no way that he could escape the house, yeah?
Absolutely not. I mean, not only were they surrounded on our street, but they were army on the other side of on the street that was left of us. So we could not even, and you know, back home, homes all have boundary walls. So
yes,
they were all
and was not much populated like these days.
No, right then, yeah. So at that time, there was just nowhere to go. So they came in and searched the house, and one of the things that really surprised me during this process was that the army was, typically what we have heard is that when they went on these raids, they would really beat up the people, how that were in the house, or destroy the property, and even take things away that they wanted. They saw that they would want that, whatever that happened to be, and that nothing of like that happened at our house. They were quiet. My mother told them that my grandfather lived with us. He was blind, and he had high blood pressure. So my mother told the captain who was leading the team. His name was Captain Qayyum. She told him that please be quiet, because I don't want him to awaken. And surprisingly, the soldiers that went through the house were very quiet and very methodical, but they didn't say a single word to anybody.
What do you mean by methodical? Like
methodical, going from room to room,
okay.
Checking all the drawers and opening up all the cabinets and so forth, but not making. They were not hurrying for anything. They were very methodical, taking their time. Also, at the same time, making sure that they are quiet, which was just I just couldn't believe this. Then they lined us up, and I told my mom that they were taking us, which is my dad, myself, Bhaiya, and Hafiz Bhai, and my
one of your cousins were there also.
Yeah, all the male individuals, and my cousin Masum Bhai used to live with us. So we were then taken out to Elephant Road, we were on a lane away from the main street. So they asked us to come in our car, and then we went up to the main street. They lined us up there and had a vehicle turn on its headlights on us.
I have one question here. If I remember, you were saying that all the arms were in the water tank on the roof. So since you were saying that they were searching methodically, did they go to the roof to search?
Oh no, the arms were taken away the following day. That we were just keeping it for the night on the 25th, 26th. Those arms were out of the house. They were taken away. So they lined us up and had the headlights on us, and then one of the soldiers came up and came up to Bhaiya and took him away from the line and put him in a different vehicle. So that's when we all realized that there was somebody in the other car, other vehicle, that identified him as Rumi. And then we were taken off to what they had was the old in Drum Factory Road. They had the MP hostels, which was a huge facility of rooms. Where this was their the army had set up their administration and where they did the interrogation of individuals. And
where was that? Was it in Meerpur?
No, that was close to the old airport.
Pejta
Airport, right? So we were taken in there. So it was not I think abduction is not the right word. My brother was actually turned in by a collaborator, by an informant for a Bengali informant, unfortunately. Definitely. But that existed in all wars. You see that you have stories of that from the Second World War, in Poland, in France. Each of those countries had
It is similar stories.
The underground. And there's always they always existed in every war. And we know the biggest one, Mir Jafar, that allowed the British to come into India. So, and that's
I'm really sorry that I had to ask you this question in depth, and I know it's quite a stressful and emotional situation for you. So, on behalf of everybody, I'm just giving you apology.
No, you're welcome. It is sad, but what we have learned through those 9 months is that if it's your time, it's your time. He didn't have to come back, but he did. Why did Hafiz Bhai come that day and not any other day? And so, and understand one thing, that 71, internet didn't exist. There were no mobile phones. So, the only way you connect is by getting somewhere, going somewhere. So, if it happened today, they would probably have a different process. They would probably have check-ins, every hour, every 2 hours, whatever, so that they all knew that everybody was safe. And so none of that happened. That was not what was available then. So when Bodhi Bhai got caught, nobody knew. And the way they torture, it is almost, you have to be somebody special to not give in, not to succumb to the pain. So we lost some very bright and very promising individuals that night. Country lost some brave souls.
Indeed. There was this part which we came to know from your mom's memoir, or maybe from the newspaper. I'm not sure, that when Shaheed Ruby was in that room where he was kept, and you were also there, so as your father, and that he was telling you that army already are fully aware of his operations, and his operation, and also his colleagues. So he advised you that when you guys give statement, you guys should tell that that you guys were the family, your family, were not aware of it, and he took the responsibility on him. Was it correct?
Well, yeah. After the night.
If I could just say, do you remember? I don't want to dig deep, but just for every one of us to know, that did he tell you, or did somebody tell you to? Say that, or did you have a direct conversation with him?
No, the first night, we were separated. Masum Bhai and I were kept in a different room. My father, I don't know where they kept him. He was not in the same room with us. And obviously Bhaiya was separated, right from our house. So, we all got through the interrogation. I was taken in the next morning to Colonel Hijazi's room. He was the main guy, initially did the interrogation. And then that night we were kept in a different room, and in that room was pretty much packed. It was a small, maybe 10 by 10 room with a faucet at one corner. It's like an old Bangladesh kitchen, or where you have some space, and then at the corner there is a tap for water. And everybody that was in that room at that time, they were all bloodied. They have been, and this is where they would take you out of here, or they would come in during that at any time of the day or night, and they just without any kind of reason, they would just start beating us while we were there, kicking, hitting with the butt of their rifles. It didn't matter, whichever way. This one man who was sitting next to me, this soldier came back and kicked him so hard on the upper back that his head snapped forward and hit the floor, and immediately started bleeding through his nose. I mean, this would happen every 45 minutes to an hour's time frame. They would just walk in and do whatever they wanted to us. So that night, we were surprised that they brought Bhaiya into that room, which because none of the others, were there. They just brought him in, so he told my dad, and I knew we were all there. So Masum Bhai, my dad, and Bhaiya, we were all together at that time. Hafiz Bhai was not there. And he said that, they know what happened. They know who did it. So, all you have to do is keep saying that we had no idea what he was into. He did this all on his own. We were not involved. But, to the extent that what has happened to other people, I think that my brother had something to do with it. In terms of, after that, the following day we were released. Following afternoon, that night we were taken to the central jail to be kept there overnight, and then the morning they brought us back. And we didn't know where we were going. The stories always were that they would put you in a van and then take you out, and they would kill they would kill you and leave you wherever they were taking you. So every time they put us in a van, we just thought, okay, this could be it or not. So in all of our cases there, we were brought back to the MP hostel. And then in the afternoon, they let us go. But since then, obviously we have no idea what happened to the rest of them, Bhaiya, Bodhi Bhai. And I don't dwell on what might have happened to them, because it serves no purpose. We just know that these soldiers were merciless. And interestingly enough, one of the things that my brother always practiced is, as I said, he was into judo, and he actually was a judo champion of the country, of Pakistan, right before the war. He would practice pain toleration.
Yes.
And one of the things we would do is I would throttle him. I would hold his throat and keep squeezing to see how long he can stay without breathing. One of the things that really stuck with him was this movie, which actually was Sir Michael Caine. This movie back in the 60s, I think it was. It's called the Ipcress File. And he was a secret agent, and he was being interrogated. And one of the scenes there is that he found a nail that he picked up during one of his interrogations, and he would put that in his palm of his hand and start hurting himself in digging it into his palm, just so that it would be a distraction from what they were trying to do to him. So, these are the things that that my brother had really worked on, to be honest with you. I don't know why he worked on it, but it's something that he practiced to the pain tolerance. And so I don't dwell on that, as I said. One of the things that when you become a guerrilla warrior, one of the things that is to your advantage is that you mix with the people. You are an ordinary individual. You don't wear a uniform,
No.
but your enemy wears a uniform, so you know who you are going to go and attack. The uniformed army has a protection under the Geneva Convention. So when Pakistan surrendered, there was nothing anybody could do to them. They were protected under that convention. When a guerrilla gets captured, they have nothing to protect them. So they're fair game. So when you become that,
so only fate they can have is death.
Yes, the chance of coming out alive, especially after that operation that they had. There were some really, really angry Pakistanis there because it was a slap in their face that these young kids could go out and wreak this kind of havoc on them. So that was the last time I saw him was that night when we went to the central jail.
So that was on 4th of September?
No, that was the 30th night.
Okay, 30th of August.
August, right. Then we were released on the 31st.
And then there was no news of him from anywhere?
No, none of them. No one knew where Bodhi Bhai, Jewel Bhai, Ajad Bhai, Altaf Mahmud. They were all. Only thing that we heard later was that Chullu Bhai was moved to central jail, and he survived. But he was not part of the operation. So that may have been the reason that he was not killed.
Mm-hmm. Was that a bluff that there was this announcements of mass mercy by the Yahya Khan, and then many family relatives of yours also asked that if you guys would like to seek the mercy petition for Shaheed Rumi to the government?
No, the announcement was true. I mean, they did say that September 5th.
So that wasn't a bluff?
No, it was not a bluff. And there was a lot of discussion on this. A lot of my father's friends, advised that we should try and do this.
Seek a mercy petition.
Right. And at the end of the day, as a family, we said, no way. Why? I mean, how do you even think about asking for mercy from these, cowards that, no, it really, I mean, the discussion was just to appease people that wanted us to do this, but deep down there was just not going to happen. It was not possible. That would be such a slap to all the guerrillas, not just my brother, but all the guerrillas.
Basically it would have been a dishonor to Shohid Rumi's views and his comrades' views and ideologies.
Absolutely.
So that's what made you all not to seek the mercy.
That is right. We don't seek mercy from Pakistanis that killed innocent
Lives.
lives sleeping, and it didn't matter. They were men, women, children.
Yes.
It was irrelevant to them. It was just kill the Bengalis, and you cannot go there and seek mercy from them.
And since I've been watching lots of documentaries, especially of BBC, so I came to know that this mass killing was organized earlier. It didn't happen just on that on the third week of March. So he already planned it by 10th of March. And that's what even the army generals of Pakistan who are present now, I mean, they even mentioned it.
That is true. When March 1, when they postponed the assembly and came to discuss, talk to Sheikh Mujib about some solution, Sheikh Mujib said there is no solution to this. We won the election, we are entitled to form the government. And when, the talks obviously broke down because, they were not going to let go. I mean, they wanted Bhutto to become the prime minister. And he was, the army. He was the army's guy. Pakistan has been ruled by army more than any other country that I can think of. But anyway, so from that point on, essentially what was happening is that they were bringing in soldiers in commercial airlines, commercial planes, not army planes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this was all done secretly.
And they came in plain clothes.
In plain clothes, yes. And essentially they just was waiting for the right time. Once they got all of this taken care of, March 25th, this was organized. It was called Operation Searchlight.
Yes.
And this indiscriminate killing of Bengalis and indiscriminate as well as targeted. It was a combination. They just wanted to strike such fear in us that we would cower and say, "Oh no, we can't deal with this." So when after March 25th we came out, as I was saying earlier, the thought process, at least from our family, was the fact that if we're going to be killed, we are going to try and kill them, until we can anymore. So, to imagine that, look, this war, nobody made a call other than Sheikh Mujib's, brilliant speech on March 7th.
Surely.
He said that, build a fort in every house of this country. Make that a fort and fight with whatever we have. That was the call. So after March 25th, there was no other call necessary. Everybody jumped in. And of course, there's always a faction that will oppose you. And that's where the Raja, the informers, the Rajakars, and the
local collaborators.
Right.
Yes, poet Shamim Azad had mentioned that, that Bengali collaborators are the one responsible for that havoc, mostly, because Pakistani army didn't know that who were who, so they were the one who were picking each of them and showing them to the armies.
Right.
Yeah, there are some comments. So definitely Shamim Azad has been watching, and she has mentioned, and she has been very close to your family, and she has written so much on your mother herself. She mentioned about your mom's strength, and through her writing, I did get to know about your mom. Like, your mom was very articulate, and she was very organized. Like, I remember Shamim was telling me one day, like, that whenever she used to go to her house, so there was this long road, so where they would take the, park the car and then come back. So usually, like, during that time, like, your mom would never waste even a single minute waiting. Like many of us just sit and wait, but she would write notes or letters, and then when the car will honk, then she would come down. So there are such stories she has written, and through that, many people got to know that she was very, she was a composed person and very solid in her thought and in her living. I would like to know, like, losing a young son and then husband, that she came that far with you. Was it easy for her? I being a mother, I don't think that's not being very easy, but how did she manage to come that far?
I don't know. To be honest with you, right after the war, starting in early 1972, we started getting phone calls where, what you would term, crank calls.
Mm-hmm.
You'd answer the phone. There wouldn't be anybody responding. Then we would get calls that would be threatening to me as well as Amma, and this went on for a while. So around that time, we were nervous, obviously, because when changes like that happen, there are a lot of people that come to a situation where they think that it is time to get revenge on people that you did not like, or whatever it is, whatever motivated those people.
Young minds.
That mother said that I think we should, and of course the schools were closed. We had our matriculation exam in 90. We were supposed to have it in 71. We didn't sit for it. So we sat for it in 72. Then I started going to Dhaka College, my first year HSC.
It wasn't easy for you either, I believe.
Well,
because you yourself had to deal with that trauma of losing your brother. So how did you overcome that? I know you. I don't know whether you have overcome it, and it wouldn't have. Not possible, but like that time when everything was so raw.
The thing that it's an incident. It's a number of things that happened. August 29th and December 13th is the day my father passed away. But December 13th was at a time that we were on the verge of winning, because December 3rd, Bangladesh Air Force attacked installations in Dhaka, and installations in, I believe, Chittagong and some other city that I can't remember now. That was the first airstrike, and that's what triggered the war, because Pakistan accused India of striking, and essentially that was, the flights took off from India, but the pilots were Bangladeshi pilots. So once the war started and Indian army moved in with the freedom fighters, Bangladesh regular army as well as the irregular freedom fighters. It was just a matter of time, that
victory was near.
Right. To what the price would be, we didn't just know. And at our house, we were preparing for house-to-house combats, because everything was being collapsing into Dhaka. And so we had a lot of rations in the house, storing. We had started storing medicines, rice, and food products, so that if it became the street fighting that we were expecting, that we would be able to provide, ourselves as well as the guerrilla fighters or the Bangladeshi fighters that were coming in, and help them. So this is all my dad and my mom's ideas, that this is how we should prepare ourselves for it. Then the air raid started, and the first couple of days, essentially Pakistan's, the Air Force, whatever they had, the planes, they were all destroyed. The runways were all bombed. So the air attacks were gone. So after that, it was just a matter of time, because once you lose your air support, you're in a very big disadvantage during a war. So, we started having very positive thought result. And my dad and I used to go up on the roof every time the air raid siren would go on. You're supposed to go into the trenches, but all of Dhaka everybody would head to the roof to see the bombing and everything else that was going to happen. And so on the 13th, my dad and I were on the roof, and he said to me that I'm going downstairs for a minute, I'll be back. And then about 10-15 minutes later, I heard my mom screaming and calling me to come down, and said that your dad's not feeling well. I saw him lying face down on the bed. And next door neighbor was our family physician and a friend, more than not just a family physician, more a friend of our family, Dr. Eke Khan. I ran to his house and brought him over, and essentially my dad was having a heart attack. So and the city was under curfew.
Yes.
So between a doctor that lived next door, another doctor who was involved, Dr. Rashid, who was involved with, who worked at the PG hospital, and my dad's partner, Monju Chacha, they arranged for an ambulance to come to the house, and they went to PG hospital. And later, we found out, I heard that from Mom, that because of the blackout during that time, the PG hospital, to make sure that it would stay dark, they switched off the main line at night. They switched it off. So they could not use the equipment that my dad needed to breathe, and they could not use the defibrillator to start his heart. So essentially, he passed away without getting any kind of medical help.
Medical support.
So Um, so when he came back, and obviously the next day we went and buried him. After getting back from the cemetery, I was outside in the front yard, kind of pushing our car back into the carport.
Mm-hmm.
I heard the screaming sound of jet fighters, and that scream, that sound is very different. That we had learned to understand that meant that they were coming in on a dive to launch some bombs, to drop some bombs, and I just let the car roll into the carport, and I got into the house, closed the door, and there was this big explosion that shook the house, and we were kind of shocked that the bomb had hit so close, and it was in the residential area. The university dormitories were taken over by the army, and that, as the crow flies, is about a mile from our house. So I think that was the target, and this happened to be a bomb that missed it. And within 10-15 minutes from the explosion, they were banging on our doors, and there were all these people that were living in that house that got hit. They were all rushed to our house. And then other neighbors decided that we will all go to the Imam residence. I don't know why, but we had close to 40 people, from the neighborhood came in and and said that they would like to take shelter.
For the funeral.
What was that? I'm sorry?
For the funeral ceremony.
No. This is because of the bomb. They didn't feel safe in their homes. So, and I guess I surmised later that maybe because we were involved with the Liberation War, they felt that they would not do anything to our house. Anyway, so that is how many people we had from 14th of December.
So they came to take shelter in your home.
To take shelter. And then we opened up the stores, the store.
Were they the people who were against the freedom fighter, or they were just
no, they were just neighbors.
Normal people,
neighbors. Yeah, neighbors. And so from that point on till the surrender on the 16th, our house was full of these people. So long story to answer your short question, is that we never had a chance to understand the loss that we just suffered on the 13th. And then also at the same time, the news of the intellectuals being picked up and killed by the Rajakars and started to hit, started to be heard. I mean, that news started circulating that, we're losing, they have been killing the intellectuals systematically. They had a hit list. And, that again, got everybody all mad again. And I don't know how you get mad again, but it was just, just innocent people being murdered like that. So, and then the 17th came, we went up, Amma and I went up and raised the flag of Bangladesh. And that night, there was a knock on the door, and there were these bunch of guys standing there. And then this man came forward and said, "I'm Major Haider." So he was my brother's commanding officer, and then Alam Bhai was there, Shahid Bhai was there. There were a number of his guerrilla comrades all came to see us, which was really something that we did not expect, that Haider Bhai would come to see Mom. So that's how, so essentially Mother and I never had a chance to sit and and understand what has happened to us because we were so busy with other things. And mother never thought for a minute that Bhaiya was not alive. You know, she held out hope. We took out advertisements in newspapers and such with his picture to find out if anybody saw him or whatever. And then we traveled to India. There was a lot of help we got from some of the newspaper people in trying to track him, track down anybody who
that he could be in India.
Right. Mm-hmm. So all of this was going on, without any kind of a time to reflect where we were, as a family. So, and mother had this capacity where she just dealt with what needed to be dealt with. She had a temper, and we were all afraid of her when she would get mad. But she was someone that made friends easily, and people felt comfortable and trusted her. And she was a very life of the party type of lady, where she was also very conscious of what is appropriate and what is not. There was an elegance about her and her character and her disposition. She was one of the few firsts of being a lady female driver in Dhaka. And then and her relationships transcended any of the social levels. She was just the same way with her university professor friends as she was with the gardeners and the bearers of Dhaka Club. This is something, one of the first things that she did after she made sure her parents were okay in their house, is she and I went to Dhaka Club, because
basically she was a people's person.
Yeah. And she wanted to go find out if everybody was okay. I mean, these are the people that nobody cares about, right? And she had to go see, and that's where we saw that the whole quarters that the gardeners and the bearers stayed, that was riddled with bullets. There were dead bodies all over the place. I mean, this army killed everybody that they could find in sight. So, it's not surprising that, and the book that she wrote, the Ekature Dinguli, to me is her way of dealing with Bhaiya, that he is gone. And I think, as I said earlier, that.
So basically, she was releasing her pain through her words, and that's why she penned down her thoughts through Ekature Dinguli.
Right, and her personality and organizational skills and all that also contributed to her being asked to lead the Ghatak Dalal Nirmul Committee in the pursuing the trial of the war criminals.
Definitely.
Which she I mean, that was historic from a standpoint that she had 75 or around 75 organizations, political, social, cultural, under that one banner and under one mission. And she was steadfast in not being deviated.
Yes.
And in 1994, she came back, stopping her cancer treatment to make sure that the report and the names of the major collaborators were released to the public. And then in March of 1994, and then she came back to the US, and she died 3 months later. So yes, she was someone else. But what is most heartening to me is that today, after 50 years, she remains one of the most loved Bangladeshis by the Bangladeshi people. I take so much peace from that.
Definitely. On that note, if I'm correct, that you have established a memorial museum in your mother's name, and that is open to all since last, if I'm right, since last 14, 15 years?
Yes. The museum was opened in 2007, and it houses a lot of memorabilia of us, bhaias, my dad's. Also, there's a lot of publications that of Amma there, and her movement with Ghatak Dal and Nilmur Committee. It's really something that I was asked to do, and I realized that I should, because it's something that is personal, but it also seems to resonate with the people. And I have been blessed with some great people that help me manage it. It's open every Saturday from 10 to 5 in the summer and 10 to 4 in the winter. And there is no admission fee. It's free. And it is in the same plot that our original Konica house was.
Yes.
I could not keep the original home. It was just it had gone really bad inside the houses. So I had, plus, I did not seek any funding from anybody. So essentially what I did was I built a apartment project complex there and have raised the money through that. And the museum is on one floor of that house, and the complex name is also Konica, by the way. So the name remains. So I hope when your listeners that are listening from the UK goes to Dhaka, would love to have you all visit and take a look at some of the things.
We are very grateful to you that you have come to speak about your own feelings and thoughts. We are almost at the end of our program, and there were a few comments. So one is Wahid Zamanupul. He said that I read this book. He meant about Ekature Dinguli. I read this book, but listening to this real life experience are unique. Thank you, Bhai. So thank you, Wahid Zamanupur, for being with us, and Naim Wara, he is also watching, and there are a few others. They're watching the show and they have made their comments. I have this last question to you, Jami Bhai. Do you feel that for the reason and the cause Shaheed Rumi, your brother, sacrificed his life for this country, Bangladesh, has it been achieved?
This question sometimes baffles me, and because what Bangladesh is today is not what they fought for. What they fought for was to liberate that country and make it its own sovereign country, Bangladesh. That is their achievement. What we do with this country is a different matter. Everyone that died, the 3 million that lost lives, and many others who survived and fought, not necessarily always on the front line, but every single person, except for the collaborators, they had a contribution, whether it was through, helping them, feeding them in the villages or in the cities, protected them, and they did other things that we don't know of, little things, providing, financial, medical, whatever support through various means. They didn't do this for any other gain than the independence. What the next generation does is really up to them. What kind of country do they want? Few things that has bothered me. I am definitely excited and encouraged and elated that we have made great progress in our GDPs and literacy and all of those other things that have been circulated very recently.
Health sector too.
And but you have to remember that the reason we fought for our language, we fought for our culture. We didn't fight for religion because we were already religious. West Pakistanis just decided that we could not be Muslims. And that's the most atrocious thing to say. Bengalis are the most pious people that I know of. So we fought for our language, we fought for our culture, we fought for Poila Boishak.
And also religion is a personal choice. It is between you and your God, not between people.
That, but see, and one thing that I want this generation that I would like them to know is that look behind as you go forward. Because looking behind is you will see what it took to have that green and white flag flying. And a few months back, when I saw Pakistani flags being flown from private homes in Bangladesh, in Dhaka,
yes,
in our soil, that cannot be. You new generation, you cannot let that happen. Because Pakistan is recognized by Bangladesh, the only place that flag can fly is in their consulate office, not outside that property. Pakistan has not acknowledged the genocide. They have not apologized for what they did. And they actually had a resolution raised against our tribunal decisions on the war crimes trials. That they sanctioned us for that.
Yes.
What kind of?
And still there are many misleading propagandas.
No, so I will never say that it was a failure to get the liberation. There is no way you can say that. We are a different country now.
Definitely.
And what that country becomes is of the people who now live there. So remember why you are called Bangladeshis and what it took for you to be called Bangladeshis. And you cannot let that ever, ever be tainted. So I am very happy with this country. I think we have come a long way. We have a long way to go. So the new generation, you have to carry this on.
Thank you, dear Jami Bhai, for your time. We are really, really grateful and privileged to you, to your family, that for you we have this land called our home, Bangladesh. And dear viewers, we will like to thank you all for watching us. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Apu Islam, for providing all the technical support from the background. And thank you, Bijoyphool team. Would like to end our show today with last few words from myself, that life seldom goes as planned. Shaheed Rumi is one in a tale of millions. The year was 1971. A nation stood at the crossroad in history. Like millions of others, Shaheed Rumi was guided by the fate to be part in creating a state for the Bengali nation. Sometimes we know that time creates character. Again, we should also remember that character also creates time. And Shaheed Rumi was one such character who has sacrificed his life for the liberation of the people, of the society, by neglecting his own personal choice, own personal life, career. So if it doesn't motivate the younger generation, then I don't think anything will. So with that hope in mind, I would like to take leave today and thank you, Jami Bhai, for being with us. We are really indebted to you. Thank you, Bijoyphool. Thank you, everyone, for watching us.
For including me in this program.
We will have you in near future again. Hopefully you will get to know a lot from you.
Thank you. We'll be happy.
Thank you.
বিশ্বের যে কোনো জায়গা থেকে ঘরে বসেই বিজয়ফুল তৈরি করতে ভিজিট করুন bijoyphool.co.uk। পেজের উপরে হাউ টু মেক বিজয়ফুলে ক্লিক করুন, তারপর নিচে স্ক্রল করে বিজয়ফুলের টেমপ্লেটটি প্রিন্ট করুন। এরপর কাঁচি দিয়ে ফুলগুলো কাটুন। সবশেষে ফুলের পেছনে ডাবল সাইডেড টেপ বা সেফটি পিন অ্যাটাচ করুন। ব্যাস, বিজয় ফুল তৈরি হয়ে গেল। বিজয় ফুল পড়ুন, বিজয়কে বুকে ধারণ করুন।
আমার সোনার বাংলা, আমি তোমায় ভালোবাসি।